California is burning. This is a special interview from Turkish Journal. We are talking to Ian Hunt today.
My name is Ian Hunt. I have spent years working in the Backcountry Trails program between AmeriCorps and the California Conservation Corps, and I also worked around Yosemite Valley in Mariposa County and Tuolumne County as a water conservationist doing pre- and post-fire cleanup.
Hi Ian, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Tell us how this fire became so massive and why now in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the fires in and around Los Angeles right now are absolutely devastating. And there are so many families and people who had to evacuate their homes. And my heart really goes out to them. But there's a history of how California came to become so dry. California, when pre-colonization, was a lot more wet, and there was a lot more wetlands in the state. And then when settlers came and they killed or forcibly displaced the indigenous communities in California, they were no longer stewarding the land. And then they also raised a lot of the ecosystems and excessively hunted a lot of the animals like beavers and wolves that were keeping the ecosystem up. So the water that was there from the ecosystems started to be dissipated or used as irrigation for farming.
So when you talk about the history, how far back it is? You will say 1800s?
1800s, 1850s, yeah, absolutely. And then beyond that, as monoculture farms started to be implemented in the Central Valley, which again used to be a lot of wetlands and freshwater ecosystems, that started being displaced and it started drying.
2024 was the hottest year in record.
That's
correct?
right, yes.
And does it have anything to do with this wildfire?
Yeah, absolutely. So climate change is a big factor in the fires that are happening right now. Not in that they are happening, but in how bad they are. So wildfires are a very natural part of California and the American West's ecosystem. What's wrong about the wildfires recently, as California has been ravaged by more and more wildfires, and the American West as a whole that are getting bigger and bigger, is a lot of different there's a lot of different factors. Rising temperatures are absolutely part of it, and longer droughts and more intense droughts are also a big part of that. But there's also indigenous communities out in the American West used to have more prescribed burns, which were more controlled, and they got rid of the fuel wood that makes these current wildfires. They feed off of it and they get more intense. So now that we've been doing fire suppression tactics, which don't let anything burn. There's a lot more to burn, and so they burn a lot hotter and a lot more intensely.
In the future, so we don't go to this point that the fire is so massive. What can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of adaptation needed. The IPCC predicted wildfires like this one way back in the 90s. So we know that this was predicted with the more we burn fossil fuels and deforest, we knew that risks like this were possible. So now we need to start adapting to those risks and getting ready to keep people safe and homes safe. And all these homes that were lost, there are ways that we can keep them safe. So we need a lot more funding for adaptation, and we need to start with vulnerable communities. So we need to absolutely lift communities from the bottom, and that way we spread resilience to entire populations. What's made it so devastating is a lack of funding for fire suppression and way before the fires start, preparation for that. So there needs to be a lot more funding in fire hardy landscapes, which is something that I used to install. There needs to be a lot more funding for organizations like the U.S. Forest Service that are able to do prescribed burns the way indigenous communities used to, so that they're less likely to catch fire and be less intense.
What is your message for young people here in the USA or internationally who wants to understand this fire and be prepared for future generations?
Yeah, absolutely. California has amazing programs. That's why so many people were able to evacuate and save lives. But for young people who understand that climate change is here and the negative impacts such as these wildfires and droughts are here, they can advocate for climate adaptation. We need adaptation that is specifically focused on vulnerable communities and disadvantaged communities, especially in the more affluent areas like Los Angeles. Because when we are able to support everyone, then it increases community resilience across the board. So fighting for and talking about adaptation is one of the biggest things that young people can do.
So you would say bringing awareness, advocacy about wildfire.
Absolutely.
Joining us today, Ian. Thank you for your time. I'm Nishad Mirza from Turkish